Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Vegan Spirituality online gathering. My name's Lisa Levinson. I'm one of the co-hosts of this gathering, and we've actually been meeting for quite a while, even before the whole COVID online experience, because we decided we wanted to meet and gather together to explore veganism as a spiritual practice. And so we are hosting these interviews with people so that we can all stay connected and to grow our community. Even if you may be the only spiritual vegan you know in your area, there are many of us all across the country and around the world. And we like to connect and share all of the good news about what's happening in our community and get to know one another. So it's really a treat to have all of you here. If you don't know, we do have in-person gatherings that people meet every month, although right now they're on a hiatus. And those are really wonderful opportunities to meet people locally. And you can even start one if you'd like to. If you would, you can reach out to us at veganspirituality@gmail.com. So there's lots of opportunities to connect in different ways. And for now, we have a wonderful interview coming up. But first, I'm going to introduce you to my co-host, Peace to All Beings author, Judy Carmen. Hi, Judy. How you doing?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. This is going to be a great interview. I'm so excited because I just, when I heard about Kent's book, God is Vegan, there it is. I ran out and got it. Well, I mean, I went on Amazon and got it. Anyway, I was so excited because this is what vegan spirituality is all about in many, many ways. And so, Kent, we can't wait to hear from you and tell us how you were inspired to write this amazing book.
Well, it's not War and Peace, so it's not, I don't know how amazing it is, but it's basically my journey to veganism. And what I like to tell people, I wasn't raised in a spiritual household, and I didn't raise my kids in a spiritual household just because I wasn't raised that way. It wasn't part of my life. But once I started exploring veganism and I started getting deeper and deeper into it, I started, having to talk to different people for all their, like your cat there, that's cool. All the different questions people had about it. It kind of, I have to say, veganism brought me closer to God. That's what brought me to God. And it's like, it's changed my life. I just feel like this is exactly how God designed us, and I want to share that with the world.
So you're saying veganism brought you to God.
Exactly.
That's really quite a statement. So tell us more about that. How did that work?
Looking back, I look at a lot of people that weren't believers in God and they were vegans. And I'm like, once you see the connections, once you see God's word and once you see how he designed us and told us what to eat, you think, wait a minute, you should embrace God. He's telling you exactly what you believe in here. And I'll get to that in a second. But I guess I got into veganism first. I've been a trainer for 35 years, a personal trainer. And I've run lots of different health clubs and health spas. And you get really close to your clients over the years, and you really care for them, and you want the best for them. And all the exercise in the world that I was doing with them as people got older and as people had more health issues, I couldn't fix with push-ups and squats and lunges. And so I had to really delve deeper into nutrition from what I knew, from what I grew up with. And fortunately, I was living in San Diego at the time, and I went to a lot of conferences around San Diego and Los Angeles, up in San Francisco. And I discovered all these amazing doctors that we all know now, the Dr. Esseltons of the world, and Dr. McDougalls, and Dr. Furman, and Dr. Bernard, and they all were going to various conferences. There's a really good conference up in LA put on called Healthy Lifestyle Expo, and they were all there every year. And I went there and listened to these guys, and I'm like, why doesn't the world know this? These are the most credible doctors I've ever seen. They're changing their patients' lives on a daily basis simply by changing the content of food on their plates. So I started really, studying veganism 24 years ago, plant-based diet, whatever you want to call it. And as I studied it, and I started telling people about it, of course, I got all the arguments from people, right? People like, well, where's my protein, and where's my B12, and where's this? Yeah. And I have answers. We all have the very simple answers to all those things. But the one that really frustrated me was, well, God put animals on this planet for us to eat. And I go, I didn't know that answer. I didn't have an answer for that because I wasn't raised in a spiritual or God, reading the Bible environment. So I started delving into the Bible, and I started reading Buddhism and different books and watching different videos. And I go, wait a minute, this is exactly what God told you exactly what to eat. It wasn't animals, it was plants. And to me, the most important verses in the Bible is in Genesis 1, which I think is the most important chapter of the Bible, because it sets up how God wanted this planet to run, how his ideal world was Genesis 1. And when he created us in Genesis 1:26, and then right after that, he says, I give you dominion over all the land and all the planet and all the animals. And then the very next chapter, the very next paragraph, he goes, and it's his first conversation with God. It's the first time he actually talks towards humans. He says, and I give you every herb-bearing seed on the face of this earth and every fruit-bearing tree, and that shall be yours for food. And I'm like, whoa, that's it right there. There's the key to life, is that one simple paragraph. If we all followed that paragraph and ate how we were designed by God, you just watch the dominoes that are falling all around our planet because of our not doing that act. We've used every excuse in the book, and we even go through the Bible and find excuses to eat meat. But it all comes down to God's ideal world. And that ideal world is a plant-based world, not only for us, but also for all animals. So that's when I got that, I was like, man, I can't, I got to share this with the world. And it's not an easy sell. It's just like trying to convince people to eat a plant-based diet. It's not easy. And you have to wait. I'm not a really militant type of, preacher of this message. I wait for people that are interested in it. And then I come with them for all answers. And fortunately, after 24 years of studying this and going to seminars and reading books, a zillion books, and see my book collection back there. I mean, I can't get enough, both on nutrition, also on spirituality. I think I've got a lot of answers to share with people. So that's why I did my little book. Big roundabout reason how I wrote the book. And kind of like, that's why I said God is vegan, because we're designed in God's image. And if we're designed in God's image and he told us to eat plants, well, he's not eating something else if he told us to eat plants. So in my view, God is vegan. And I think his son is vegan as well. So there you go.
That is awesome. Yeah. And we've had a couple of people on that we've interviewed who have quite a bit of evidence that Jesus was vegan. So yeah, it's very intriguing. And there's a lot of historical evidence that Jesus was vegan. So, and that makes sense that he would be vegan if God is vegan. So, exactly. But I need to back up because I completely forgot to introduce you because I was so excited to talk about your book. So I'm going to read your bio here. Some of it you've already said. You're the director of fitness at the Aspen Club in Aspen, Colorado.
He was.
The spa director at Canyon Ranch in Tucson and at Ci-A-Vie in Vista, California.
Ci-A-Vie.
How is it said?
It's called Ci-A-Vie. It's another health spa.
Ci-A-Vie. Okay. And a personal fitness owner in both Aspen, San Diego, Park City, which is where you live now, Park City. Exactly. A healthy eating coach at Whole Foods in California. And you've been certified in plant-based nutrition by McDougall and Campbell, both, right, which is awesome. And you are also a Hollywood stuntman, which we need to talk a little bit about that. That was in the 80s that you did that. And one of the things that Kent says in his book, or close to what you said in your book, I believe that with one single act, we will change the world for the much, much better. And that act is for all humans to adopt a low-fat, whole foods, plant-only, vegan lifestyle.
There it is.
So, yeah, I mean, that just says it right there. Says it all. And I love that one single act. And I believe that is the name of your website.
It's the name of everything I do. So my Facebook page, my Instagram, my Twitter, my website. It's just, to me, it's like if we just do one single thing, we switch from a plant-based diet to God's designed plant-based diet, we can fix everything. And I literally mean everything.
Yeah. We really
Going
can.
on right
I
now.
mean, the environmental problems, the health problems, just down the line.
And how about
And I think,
viruses now?
and now the pandemics,
Exactly.
exactly. We wouldn't have the pandemics if we were all vegan. So we need to hurry up and all be vegan. So I believe Lisa has put your website on in the chat box. So, but if not, it is onesingleact.org, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
A lot of great information in there to help guide you on this plant-based journey if you're new to it.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like it. Recipes and
Vision.
anything about fitness on there?
Not so much about fitness. I'm a, I do all kinds of fitness, but I really just encourage people to find something they enjoy, whether it's just
Mm-hmm.
walking or all the way to, CrossFit, whatever they like in between. But as I've done this for so long and, as I've gotten up there, I realize you don't have to kill yourself with exercise. If you follow the people in the blue zones, people most familiar with the blue zones, the cultures around the world that have lived the longest, those people aren't doing Pilates and they're not doing Zoom classes and they're not doing all these crazy things. They're just living life and being active. And like, for example, the women in Okinawa, they don't even have chairs. So they get up and down off the floor all the time. And that's where they get their squats.
Mm-hmm.
People in Sardinia, Italy are working the fields and working their farm. So just be active is the main thing.
Yeah. Lots of walking,
Lots of walking.
too. Yeah. Yeah. And I believe in those blue zones, there's a lot of more of a peaceful, not so hurried lifestyle.
And
I
also,
think that's low stress.
definitely. And one of the, there's like a number of factors, and one of them is spirituality. All of them believe in God, and that's part of their longevity strategy as well, as well as the planet.
Right. Yeah. So, so you've told us a little bit about getting on your path to veganism and your spiritual journey and how they kind of work together and how it became so clear to you that they go together, that and it's something that in our group of vegan spirituality folks were often puzzled by so many vegans who don't have a spiritual path, and we really feel like it would help them a lot, especially during this time, the pandemic time, to have a way to de-stress and be at peace within themselves. And so, and that helps us know what is ours to do. What's our next step? What action can we take? So, but before we go on, tell us about being a stuntman. That's so fascinating. What did you do?
Well, I was just a jock in high school, but I wasn't a natural athlete. I got into, I wanted to be an athlete, but I wasn't the fastest or the biggest or the strongest. So I got into exercise at a young age, and it just helped me become a better athlete. And it ended up having a nice career in high school. Then I got a scholarship to play football in Colorado. And after that was over, like, okay, what can I do? I have all this like energy and tools. And so like a lot of people, I didn't have a clue on how to break into the world of Hollywood. And once you get there, you realize, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? But I was very, very fortunate. And I think that, I think a positive mindset really makes a big difference. Just believing in yourself that all things can happen, which is a verse in the Bible, by the way. But so anyway, I just packed up my stuff one day and I said, you know what, I'm going to go out to LA and I think I could be a great stuntman. And so I went out there, and my very first week, I found these row of offices where they had a few agents and stuff. And I started knocking on doors and said, hey, I'm Kent Maurer. I'm here from Colorado. I'm going to be a stuntman. And they're like, well, do you have your Screen Actor card? And I go, no. Do you have your Screen Actor card? I go, no. Well, we can't put you to work unless you have something, you have those cards. I go, well, how do I get them? Well, you got to get work. So it's like a catch-22. You can't work unless you have the card, and you can't get a card unless you work. But then a couple doors down, I knocked on this door, and this lady goes, you look just like a guy that they're looking for right down the road. So there was a company that was doing it's called Nissan, it was a Nissan commercial, but back then it was called Datsun. Shows how old that was. Before Nissan, it was called Datsun. And they were shooting a commercial up in Mammoth Mountain, California. And the guy that they had signed up to double the actor just quit, just like a couple days ago. So they were desperate because they're supposed to go in 2 days to Mammoth and shoot this commercial. And fortunately, I had pictures of things that they wanted me to do. They had pictures of me rappelling up of mountains and had pictures of me kayaking. So literally, they did what's called a Taft-Hartley, which is an emergency Screen Actors card. And 2 days later, I was on a Learjet up to Mammoth Mountain, California. And for 4 days, I was rappelling off the mountains. I was kayaking in rivers. And I go, this is the best job on the planet. I could do this forever. And then when you get back after that one job, which is a great job, and I made great money, all of a sudden the reality sets in like, well, that was a one-off deal. How am I going to get more work? And you really kind of learn that you got to kind of prove yourself. You got to, it's a who you know business, especially in the stunt world. The stuntmen hire other stuntmen or friends or family members. And so I got my Screen Extras card as well. And I started going on sets where there was a lot of shows where they did a lot of stunts. And I started introducing myself to the stunt guys. And every now and then I would get a job, and then more jobs and more job. And kind of my forte became like the rappel guy, you know, the guy that rappels off a building like a SWAT team member, policeman, or a soldier that would rappel off I rappelled out of helicopters and things like that. And then I also got known to be a guy that you could trust. And so I rigged up a lot of things where I would rappel off a cliff and hook up wires and stuff for a car that was going to be blown up on the side of the cliff. So I got jobs just kind of rigging things. So that was fun. It was not work. It was just play. So I wasn't a superstar stuntman. I didn't do all the burning things and the high falls, but I stayed busy and I paid the bills and I really enjoyed it. So I did that for about 4 years until I said, I'm done with LA. I got to get back to Colorado. And that's where I ended up back in the fitness industry. So that's kind of my story there, but it was fun. It was something I'm glad I did. I told myself I wanted to try it and I made a living at it. And you can see me in lots of different credits. And
wow. That's so cool. And you kept fit doing that, I'm sure.
Yeah, fitness is just part of my life.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what, as I was working in LA and there weren't stunt jobs to be had, I was always in the gym. And people started coming up to me in the gym. This was before personal trainers were a thing. Say, hey, I see you know what you're doing. Can you help me with this routine? Can you help me with this? And then, hey, I'll give you $20 if you put me through a workout. And so that kind of like was the beginning of the personal training. And I got on that wave of that. So I learned a lot from that. And I ended up moving back to Colorado, getting a job at the Aspen Club, which is this fantastic club in Aspen where I learned from so many amazing athletes. I worked out people like Chris Everett and Martina Navratilova and, really got around some amazing athletes. They had crazy physical therapists there. So I learned from them and surgical doctors that were great at rebuilding knees. So it was a great learning ground. And it all started in my little time in LA as a stuntman. So it was fun.
Yeah, that's so cool. So to tell us, moving back into the vegan world, tell us what your training was like with McDougall and
Dr. Campbell?
Yeah, Dr. Campbell.
Yeah. Well, going to these seminars I was telling you about earlier up in LA, Dr. McDougall really stood out to me. He was a very dominating figure and he really made a lot of sense. And so he was one of the first ones to come out with an online certification program. So that was the first one I did. And it was fun, just doing stuff, studying stuff that you enjoy talking about. And then it got more these personal training certifications got more sophisticated. And Dr. Campbell, who wrote the China study, and his son, Rip Esselstyn, who's the Engine 2 diet. Anyway, he came out with one from Cornell University. That seems to be as of right now, the premier one, the one that has the most credibility in plant-based nutrition. And it's like a 3 or 4 week online course, lots of tests, lots of essays. They make you work for it. It's not just, yes or no questions. So it was fun. I really enjoyed it. And so those are the 2 ones I've gotten done so far. I'd like to do the one they have, I think it's called Fit for Life or something like that with Dr. Bernard out of Washington, D.C. That's one I'd like to do next. Mm-hmm. I think they're starting to do those online now because you can't travel to Washington to do them anymore. So that's probably my next one. But they all connect. They're all the same thing. They all we got to have, instead of putting the animal products in, those are really where the cause are, start putting more plant products in. And how do you make that work? How do you make it satisfying to people? And that's where the starches, Dr. McDougall is very big about starches, which are potatoes and beans and whole grains. And Dr. Campbell is very big about greens. And so is Dr. Esselstyn. So you combine those 2, beans and greens, and you got a perfect foundation for healthy meals. And you can make so many different things out of all those different foods. Did I give you a little idea of what those certifications are about, or what do you want to know more?
Yeah, your voice kind of slowed down.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Says the internet connection's unstable, but
I'm talking too fast.
you're moving. I see you moving.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll get back on track here.
Anyway,
So are you giving classes on nutrition now?
I do lots of things. Okay, I try to
Or do
spread.
you integrate it with your personal?
Exactly. So I do lots of things to share this message. And one of them is I do one-on-one coaching, but I also do 10-day challenges, which I stole from Rip Esselstyn, Dr. Esselstyn's son. And I take people for 10 days and I educate them on this plant-based nutrition. We have different potlucks where everybody tries to make their own meals. We share them so you see how easy it is to make and how delicious they are. I bring in different documentaries like Forks Over Knives or now Game Changers or whatever, and show documentaries at our potlucks. Then I take them on hikes because I like to incorporate the exercise part into it and the spiritual part into it. I like to take them out, walk with God out there. And then we finish up at the end of the week at a restaurant, so I show them how to order. So in 10 days, they've seen the whole gamut. They've seen the videos, they've seen how good the food tastes, they see how good they feel. Literally everybody who does this for 10 days loses weight. And if they have their blood work done before, they watch their cholesterol come down, they watch their blood pressure come down. And it's just like, wow, I feel so good. I'm not so achy in my joints anymore. And I have more energy and I can breathe better. And so it literally is a miracle way of eating. It's not a miracle because it's really how we were designed to eat. And we just have gotten away from how we were designed to eat, from our biological design, but also our spiritual design, as I always reference in that Genesis 1:29 chapter in the Bible.
So you do bring in the spiritual aspect when you have these classes or the 10-day challenges.
If they're open to it, I definitely do. I mean, I can't stop talking about that aspect of it if people are interested in it. If people are just like, I don't want to hear that, then I move on to another avenue. I hit them with whatever they're interested in. If they're just talking about themselves, they just care about themselves, or if they care about the environment, we talk in depth about the environment, how much the animal agriculture is affecting our planet. And if they're into the spiritual end of it, they really get it when they start reading these words that come directly from God. So it's pretty cool. And now with this new edition, this COVID-19 and all the viruses that have come before it and all the viruses that are going to come after it, people are really starting to pay attention now because, wait a minute. So this collective act of all of us demanding animal products is where these viruses were born. And they absolutely have been. And you can use all the conspiracy theorists out there you want and say it came from a laboratory, but these viruses have been coming for the past 10,000 years, ever since man started, what's the word, controlling and dominating animals. Right. It's gotten worse and worse and worse as our population has grown, as these animal factory farms and these wet markets have gotten bigger and more around the world. So that's exactly where they're coming from. So people are paying more attention to it because they don't like being locked down in their house, and they don't like losing their jobs, and they don't like losing their incomes, and they don't like wearing masks everywhere they go. And, so this is catching people's attention. And I tell people all the time, I say, this isn't a God vengeance thing. This isn't like a flood or whatever. This is just humans not doing what God asked us to do. And we've got ourselves in this own predicament because we didn't eat like he has designed us to eat. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the logical consequence. And we're basically ending up sheltering in place because of all the animals that we have confined.
Exactly.
In a kind of a karmic way, it's kind of coming back on us. And you're so right. The pandemics, the studies that I've done are showing that the pandemics and war both started with animal agriculture, which was about 10,000 years ago, because it gave that idea to people that we had the power to dominate others, and that included other people. Exactly. It wasn't just animals that the idea of dominating came from, because slavery started then too. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was a big wrong turn, possibly.
Yeah. It wasn't God's ideal. It was man thinking they were better than God, and that's what
pretty much.
That's what got us kicked out of Eden. That's where all the problems started.
Yeah.
We lived as he designed us and instructed us, man, we'd be flourishing right now. And hopefully we can get back to that soon.
I hope so too, Kent. And I think your book's going to help with that, and your website and all the teaching that you're doing. So right now, are you just teaching online?
And I do some one-on-one, so people are not afraid to be around me. I'm a healthy guy. And
Yeah.
so I do some one-on-one, but I used to do these monthly potlucks too. And I'm sure you guys have done stuff like that. So those are on hold right now. But I still organize viewings of films online, and I do some webinar stuff online, a lot of Zoom stuff online with people.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, it's a little frustrating right now that we can't be all together and talk.
It is, yeah. Well, are you having any pushback when you talk about the COVID thing being related to animals?
Oh no.
Or people accepting that?
They are. I mean, there's the people that want to believe it's not they didn't cause it, right? Just like I didn't cause my cancer, I didn't cause my heart disease. It's not my food, it's genetics. And people don't want to believe it's their demand for animal flesh that caused these pandemics. But you can go back to the most deadly one on the planet, which was the 2016 Spanish flu. And that one has been traced back to a pig farm in Kansas, your neck of the woods, a bird farm in Kansas. Went to the soldiers going off to World War I. They took it with them over there to Europe. And they were just in the worst environment for those people. They're living in these trenches and mud and, on top of each other. It was just a perfect breeding ground that killed 50 to 100 million people back then. And that came from animals. Swine flu, there's this swine flu breeding over in Poland right now. There's a bird flu breeding in Indonesia. There's a turkey flu breeding in South Carolina. They just keep coming and coming and coming until we stop the demand. And if we would just step back and look at how we were designed to eat and how God told us to eat in Genesis 1:29, we would start fixing all these problems. We'd be fixing our health problems, our pandemic problems, our environmental problems, our water shortage problems. Everything comes from that one verse. To me, I mean, this is my view in Genesis 1:29. That is, for me, there's so many spiritual people in the world. There's like 85% of the population on planet Earth believes in God or believes in some kind of spiritual being. I just don't understand why they're not seeing this message. It's like so blatant. They skip right over that Genesis 1:29 and go right into, well, Jesus fed everybody fish and bread on the mound of 5,000, but did he? I mean, if you look at some older textbooks that were written in Greek and in Arabic, and he didn't say fish, they said fish weed or fish meal, which is another word for seaweed. So dried seaweed and bread makes more sense given to a bunch of people than a bunch of live fish and nothing to do with it and bread. So anyway, people can debate me on that forever. I just look at the logic in some of these things, and I look at Jesus as the most loving human being that we all aspire to on the planet. He wouldn't advocate a diet that killed countless creatures or any creature. And so I just have to believe, like you do, that Jesus is definitely just like his father, and trying to spread that message. Jesus's brother his whole family was raised a vegetarian. So why wouldn't Jesus? All of his disciples were following that lead after he moved on to heaven. And so anyway, that's, again, people will argue that till the end of time, but to me, it comes down to God's ideal. Genesis 1:29, here's what you're supposed to eat. Do this and all will be well. And we didn't.
It's such a simple message and such a simple concept. And yet it is tricky to get it across to people. But that's why I love your book and the title of the book, because it's just says it like it is. And I think it goes into the consciousness of people, even if they don't accept it at first, just hearing that or reading that, it's going to make them think. And we really need to get this going in a serious way now, because there's so much hinging on what's happening in the world right now. And like you're saying, so much can be solved by just living a vegan lifestyle. And of course that includes the whole vegan gamut, not just eating plant-based, but yeah, but
in every factor. Yeah.
Right. Living in a hymn style life. And do you want to show your shirt?
She likes the word ahimsa, so I wear my ahimsa shirt. To me, it's one of
Yes.
the most powerful words out there. It just tells us, if we could aspire, even though we can't be perfect, if we can aspire to live a life of ahimsa, of trying to do no harm to every living creature we come across, animal, vegetable, mineral, I think that's our ticket right there to a peaceful world that we all desire.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. It's such a simple concept.
Yep.
So how much negative feedback do you get? Because you are dealing with a lot of pre-vegans, I imagine,
Oh, yes.
in the fitness world.
It's interesting you say that, because I used to get all kinds of negative feedback. But then, for 24 years, I've been studying everything that they argued with. I went out and got the answer for, including this: God put animals on the planet for us to eat. So I know everything about nutrition. I know everything about where everybody's argument about, from choline to B12 to protein to, omega-3s to whatever they're going to want to argue with. You could trace it all to what God put on this earth for us to eat. All the plants. Plants are the original source of every nutrient on planet Earth. Every nutrient, including B12. B12 is just a bacteria that's in the soil and the water and the oceans, and we just clean everything now so the B12 gets denatured. Everything is in plants. So there's no argument there. So if you go through my book, I put kind of like man's view, and I show people like, okay, here's where your B12 comes from, here's where this comes from. Then I go to the next chapter and I show God's view and how it all meshes together. So it's one of the few times that you look around where God and science blend perfectly. They're on the same team. They really are, because God's telling us exactly the same thing that all these fantastic plant-based doctors are telling us right now, exactly what to eat. And that's whole plant foods, not processed stuff, not man-made junk, whole stuff that comes from the earth directly the way God designed it. It's pretty cool. All we have to do is get back to that, I tell you, people, and we'll be looking pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so
Yeah,
many
I agree.
so many delicious ways to eat plant-based. I mean, there's 86,000 edible plants on planet Earth. You can find something to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Like your chicken sandwich and your turkey sandwich and your steaks and your fish and your eggs. There's plenty. Has anybody tried that Just Egg yet from the company called Just? It is amazing. I just had it recently. It's just scramble up Just Eggs, just like regular eggs. I hear in China, because they're so afraid to eat birds because of the bird flu, the Just Egg is exploding in China now.
Wow.
And we're seeing that here in our country with all the plant-based meats starting to be more popular because of all these animal slaughterhouses that are being just like a festering house of COVID-19. So anyway, maybe somebody up there smarter than us is trying to put us in the right direction. I hope so. Hope people
Yeah. Yeah. So as far as people who are on a spiritual path but aren't vegan, that's one of the things we talk about a lot here is on our vegan spirituality talks, is how do we reach them?
Yeah.
And because a lot of them are really closed, and yet, like you say, this message in Genesis is right there in front of all of us.
I've had some people invite me to their Bible studies to talk about this.
Oh.
And you're right, they get very defensive, and they want to come up with some other place in the Bible that says, well, look, here's where he said, in Genesis 9:3, after the flood, he told us it's okay to eat meat. I go, yeah, because we just flooded the planet. There's no animals, there's no plants to eat. So and the animals that he told us to eat after the flood too, by the way, were animals without any blood in them, right? Bloodless animals. So that had to be like crustaceans and snails and different things that were abundant in the oceans. Because he's not going to say, okay, I just saved 2 of every animal on planet Earth, go ahead and eat them. Why would he do that? I mean, or she or it or whatever you want to call the creator of the universe. So logic speaks like, okay, just eat all those animals that we just saved. No. Eat these crustaceans in the oceans until plants grow again, and then get back to how I designed you to eat. And that's the whole thing about, this not eating blood in some cultures, not draining the blood out of an animal, which is a brutal process, by the way. They're just misinterpreting God's ideal. They're trying to make it work into the man's ideal, and man just has to get away from thinking they're better than God. And it's going to be our problem until we get it right. We just can't keep thinking that we're smarter or better than the creator of the universe. So it's not easy. So when somebody argues a point like dominion's a perfect one to argue with. I'll say, okay, let's look at this. God created man. Then he told us to be dominion over all species on planet Earth. And then right after that, he says, and here's what you're supposed to eat. So why would he say you have dominion to kill and rape and pillage and do whatever you want, but here's what you're supposed to eat. And here's what the animals are supposed to eat in Genesis 1:30. This whole planet was supposed to be a vegan planet. There wasn't supposed to be any carnivores or omnivores. We're all supposed to be eating plants. Greens for the animals, and herbs and spices and fruits for us. So anyway, I have an answer for them, but they don't like to hear it. And they want to live what the hell they want to live. And unfortunately, you can't change some people, but you can get them thinking. And I think in times like this, with these pandemics going on, somebody that I mentioned this to a couple months ago or whatever is going to say, wait a minute. He was talking about how we weren't designed to eat these animals, and look what's going on now because we're eating these animals. So maybe it wakes somebody up. I don't know. Hopefully it does.
I've been hearing from more Christians that they are thinking about this, and that they're kind of becoming more aware because of what's going on in the world. And there are some Christians that I've heard say, it doesn't matter what we do on earth because Jesus is going to come and save us and take us away from here. And it's really difficult to find a common ground there to talk to them. But I find that there are more and more Christians who are paying attention. And then of course, the Old Testament relates to Judaism and Islam also. Right. And so, that's a lot more people too that we can reach with your book and this idea. So, but there's a common theme in all the religions that I have found, which is basically the golden rule. Right. And what does that mean? It means be kind to everyone, not just people. Why? What makes sense about that? Just be kind to people and mean to everybody else. So I think
ramifications of that.
Pardon?
We're seeing the ramifications of that mindset. It's not just being kind to people. We're not being kind to all these other animals, and we're abusing them in every way. They're coming back to bite us in the butt.
Well, I think we might be getting close to Q&A. Do you have anything else you want to add before we open up for that?
The one single act thing to me is just my mantra. If we just change from a meat-based diet, the way we've all been raised, I was raised the same way, and go more to a God-based diet, which is a plant-only diet, we can just change the world. And that's my mantra. That's what I'm trying to get to the world. And I hope that people start paying attention. And unfortunately, bad things seem to have to happen before people start paying attention. I find that true before even COVID-19. People didn't really come and start asking me questions about nutrition until they got cancer, until they got heart disease, or they got diabetes. So unfortunately, people don't listen until they get a wake-up call. So maybe this is a wake-up call for the whole planet. And hopefully they will listen.
Yeah, hear. Yes. I really agree with you. And that's the silver lining to me in this pandemic, is that it has the potential to wake people up. So Lisa, are you there? Can you open up for Q&A now?
Sure, of course.
There you are. Hi.
So it's nice to see you guys. I've been so interested in what you're sharing with us, Kent. That's really, really neat. It's just combining the fitness and the spirituality, and also this idea of doing it yourself. I mean, I love that you went out and took these courses and then just decided, hey, I'm going to, within my community, with my clients, I'm going to lead these little retreats. And I think that's a great idea. We all can empower ourselves to look at who we have the ability to reach in our lives and educate and share with, and that's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I've always been looking for a bigger way to get this word out to the world. So I left my practice here in Park City a few years back and went to California and went to work for Whole Foods as a healthy eating specialist. And they had this program going for about a year where they would have seminars in the stores and they would do classes and cooking classes. And it was awesome. that was the best job of my life until they started realizing, well, wait, we're not really making any money off of this. And they disavowed the program, and they basically wanted to make me become a grocery manager. And I was like, no, I didn't come here to be a grocery store manager. So moved back here to Park City after that. So I've been always looking for a way to get this message to a broader audience. I'm sure, you hear this is a great line, but there's no money in health. There's lots of money in sickness. So the powers out there that are selling their products, disregarding human health or planetary health, there's a lot of money to be made from those guys. From the people like you guys trying to spread this message of love and compassion and health, there's no money. So you have to kind of follow the money to see the true path. But money's not, as we're finding out now, billionaires aren't so important. It's your guy that's at the grocery store that's checking you out and getting you the food. It's the people that are coming to fix your hot water heater that breaks down. So we're starting to see in this little COVID home thing, which really is important in the world. And to me, the most important is having faith in God and having God knowing that he's going to be there to take care of me no matter what happens. And, living a life where that he's got your back, is pretty awesome, and also trying to aspire to live out through God's teachings really makes a big difference. It makes you less stressful, makes you less fearful, makes you less, like panicked about what's going to happen next. And I'm so afraid. Well, the opposite of fear is love. And we all just need to think more about love and loving each other, loving the planet, loving every creature. And this will be a lot better planet to live on.
Oh, this is so great. I think people who are curious about the fitness might also get a dose of spirituality and come out better for it. So thank you for sharing with us, Kent. And I'd like to invite anyone who is on board with us. Maybe they are in our Zoom meeting, or perhaps you're with us on Facebook Live. You're welcome to type your comment in the chat box, and we'll go ahead and answer that. We do have a couple questions that are queued up here, so I'll start with those. So one of them is here. It says, do you get or understand the plants feel pain thing too? Like, how do you respond to that sort of a question?
That's an easy one. Again, God put plants on this earth for us to eat. So we're not doing anything against God's will, first of all. But if you want to equate eating plants to, eating animals, just if you're going to eat animals, then basically you're a double murderer. Think about it. Animals are eating most of the plants on planet Earth. There's 70 billion animals out there. They're eating 80% of all the food on planet Earth and using most of the water. So they're eating the plants, then we're eating the animals. You're a double murderer in my mind, because you're not only eating the animal that didn't need to die, but you're also eating all these plants that animal ate. It takes about 16 pounds of plants to create 1 pound of protein on average. So it's the most inefficient industry on the planet Earth. So my favorite food is fruit. So if you look at fruit, nothing dies, right? The fruit tree begs you to take their fruit. It drops to the ground if you don't drink it, if you don't eat it. So somebody else will eat it walking along. And then you eat those animals will eat the seeds and poop it out and fertilize the ground, and perfect environment for the next fruit tree. So fruit is one of my favorite foods. I think it's the perfect food for humans. One of my early books I read was this book called A Way Out. I don't know if anybody ever read this. When I was living in San Diego, there was a big raw food movement at the time, where everyone was eating raw food. And that really got my attention. I found that I just couldn't eat raw all the time. I exercise a lot, and I need a lot of calories. So I needed to start adding those starches in, the potatoes and the beans and the grains. But I'm a big fan of raw, uncooked fruits and vegetables. And so I think plants were put here by God to eat. I don't think they were put here for grow in mass to feed the animals, for us to eat the animals. So I have no problems eating plants. I think those are exactly what God wants us to eat, and he'll replenish them very easily on this earth. But he doesn't like us eating all of his creatures that he created. I don't believe that is true.
Wow. Wonderful answer. It's always a question that many of us vegans get, which is, what about the plants? And I think that's...
I saw a little box pop up a little earlier from somebody said, oh, what about bugs and all this? There's a big movement to get all the protein from these different bugs and different things on Earth. I go, well, fine if that's what you want to do, but I like the taste of plants a lot better than bugs personally. And again, in Genesis 1:29, it doesn't say, I give you every bug on planet Earth to eat, and that shall be your food. No, I gave you every herb, and I gave you every seed, and I gave you every fruit that's on every tree, and that shall be your food. So I'm going to go by that guy's guidance.
Yeah, it sounds like it was pretty clear directive there. Let's see if we have any other questions. We've got let's see. Yeah. So one question, I think you actually addressed this a little bit, because some people refer to God as he. You mentioned also she or it. So, do you have a perspective on that, or just a preference, or?
I do. In my book, if you read my book, I never use he or she or it. I use the creator of the universe. I try never to like use a concept. So one of the most favorite lines in the book, in the Bible, that I love is that God created humans in our image, not my image or her image or its image, our image. And I love that line because that means every human on earth is created in God's image, whether you're tall, short, black, white, gay, straight. And I know a lot of people are not going to like that, but everybody was created in God's image. And it says it again in the Bible. He was created. We were all created in our image. Whoever R is, whoever that creation was. So I like that thing a lot because so many people use prejudices against other humans because they're not the same color or not the same race or they don't think the same way about who they love or whatever. And God put us here exactly the way we were meant to be, and that's how He wants us to live our life. And we have no judgment over these people. Only God has the judgment over people, and I think we're here special, exactly the way we were meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I think God created the whole universe. Somebody mentioned down there, what's my concept of God? God created the whole universe. And I think there's one God. And I think all the religions on earth are fantastic because they bring people closer to God, whatever their belief in God is. But to me, it's all one God trying to get everybody into a more positive, more loving space. As you said, Judy, that's all about love. It's all about the golden rule. It's all about treating each other with kindness. My book emphasizes that, over and over again, is that God is all about love. He doesn't want to do anything to hurt us. He doesn't want to see us suffer. He doesn't want to see us punished. He doesn't want to put plagues on us. He wants us to thrive. And He told us exactly how to do it in that first chapter of the Bible, exactly how we can live this Garden of Eden, this fantastic life, if all we do is follow His guidance. But unfortunately, we thought we knew better. And that's what got us into trouble. But we can also, what got us into trouble can get us out of trouble.
Yes, exactly. We've got, it seems like a pretty interesting conversation here in the chat. Let's see, and that you've found one of the more interesting questions there about what is your concept of God? And let's see. I'm going to check one other location here and see if we have any other sorts of questions popping up.
Well, first of all, I'm not an expert on theology. I'm not some guy who studied the Bible for my whole life. I'm still studying. I'll be studying it for the rest of my life. I've just blended my knowledge through fitness into nutrition and how it ties into the spirituality. And like I said, this whole learning about veganism turned me on to God, and God turned me on to this whole big picture. And I started studying things like quantum physics and the power of the subconscious mind. It just opened a whole new world for me that I didn't have until I became a vegan and then discovered God. It's been pretty awesome.
It's amazing. I've actually run into a lot of people who are vegan who said that it actually was the process of becoming vegan that helped open up their spiritual awareness. And so the other piece is about the food, having this food that is close to the earth. And that also many monks and spiritual leaders do eat this way because it is a non-harming, and also it's something that I think it allows the mind to be quiet and focus for meditation.
Coming from a guy's perspective, because I think right now the majority of vegans out there are women, because you guys are the smartest species on the planet. You girls are. But from a guy's perspective, being the macho, big ego guy all my life, football player, you have to be the tough guy. Veganism has made me so much of a better human being. I just do not get upset like I used to. I don't let things anger me. And I think the combination as becoming vegan, getting the animal flesh out of my veins, and then discovering God and discovering wait a minute, he's got control over me now. I don't have anything to worry about. It just made me, the whole combination has made me a better human being. And I think it would do that for every human being. I think every guy needs to look towards this path. And if any guys are out there, if you haven't seen the documentary, The Game Changers yet, Game Changers is so good to help convince you that you will not lose your masculinity if you stop eating animals, and you'll actually become a better athlete, a better husband, a better person, a better leader for this planet if you follow those examples. And it's a great movie to watch. It's on Netflix, so it's one of my favorites.
Cool. It's just wonderful to hear all the suggestions that you have, because they're inspiring us.
Yeah, it's a great movie, and I love the end where they're showing this guy with a gun, and he's in Africa, and he's there to guard the animals, right, from poachers. Yeah, and he makes the point that veganism really changed his heart.
Really good.
And I'm glad they included that in there, because it was more about being athletic and strong and all that at first, but they brought that in. And I've met men who became vegan, and I had one fellow tell me that before he went vegan, he could watch a movie with his wife that she would be crying. It didn't even affect him, didn't bother him at all. But then after he went vegan, after a few weeks or months, he noticed that he was crying too.
Good for him.
And the level of compassion raised in his heart. And I think he felt more comfortable being compassionate and showing his compassion.
Definitely.
And so what you're saying, I think, is so true. It changes you from the inside out, because you're not eating violence.
Right.
Yeah.
Like attracts like, doesn't it?
It
The law of
does.
attraction. What you think about, you bring about, and what you eat, you bring about as well. And that Damien Mentor is the guy you're talking about in The Game Changers. He was an 8-tour Iraq sniper, like one of the most deadly guys on the planet. He took his skills to South Africa to protect the animals. He came across an elephant one day, saw the tusk cut off, the animal laying there dead, just so somebody could have the tusk of this animal. And he went home to have a steak that night, and he goes, wait a minute, what's the difference between this cow and this elephant? That's what clicked with him right away. And here's the manliest of the man guys out there. And he really got the message, and he's thriving on a plant-based diet. And that's what the Game Changers try to do, is just show guys that you're not going to become a less of a guy or less of an athlete or less muscle or whatever if you stop eating animals. It's the opposite. You'll get better. You'll get stronger. You'll have a better heart as well.
Wow, that is a very powerful story. And I've met Damien actually, and he is a very kind-hearted person as well. So it's good to kind of hear the stories. And you shared your own story of being the stuntman and all these things, and then noticing internally what happened as you shifted your diet. And even in the Vedic principles, they do have the sattvic diet and the rajasic diet, which the sattvic is eating more plant-based foods, and that helps people to open to their spiritual self. So there's some tradition, I guess we'd say, in many of the world's religions that include this, although maybe not all of them, but many of them. So I appreciate you sharing your personal experience, and also how you put it together in your teachings and in your daily life. You really walk the talk. I mean, you are, doing what you're describing, and I think that is what attracts people to you and your work, because they can see that you're thriving, and they want that too.
Well, I tell people all the time, as a personal trainer, muscles don't come from eating a burger or eating a steak. It comes from hard work, and hard work's what's going to make the muscles happen. All you got to do is eat enough quality calories, and you'll be able to get bigger if that's what you want to do. But it's just so much of a brainwash that people have, that they have to have animals for protein. Even if you go to a restaurant now, which we don't even go to restaurants anymore, but the first thing they ask you on your salad, you want protein on your salad. I go, well, the salad's loaded with protein. All these greens are about 40% protein. These beans are 25% protein. So protein's everywhere, but we're so conditioned by media, by society, by traditions. Traditions are hard to change with people as well. That protein only comes from animals, but no, animals are just the middle animal. They all come from plants through photosynthesis, and every amino acid is in every plant. There's no less or more in others. So plants are where it's at. And what I love seeing right now with this COVID thing is a lot more people are growing their own gardens now, which is kind of cool. They're growing their own food and not worrying about grocery stores and the middleman anymore. So that's a lot of good things are happening with this, even though there's a lot of bad things happening with it. I hate to see this planet shut down and people losing their jobs and these industries, but hopefully some really good will come from it. Hopefully humans will learn from it.
Well, from what you've said, it sounds like there will be more vegans on the planet after this, and that is a good thing. People will, more and more people will start, and this might be one of those inspirations. Whether it's just like you said, sometimes people, they make changes when they have to, and this might inspire that as well.
Exactly.
I love the positive outlook that you have, and I'm so grateful to you for sharing it with us tonight, and also to Judy for co-hosting, and to everyone here who's joined in this conversation. We have people who've tuned in on Zoom and some people who are with us on Facebook, and I know there's so many options now, places that you could be, so we're delighted that you chose to spend some time with us tonight, and it's really been such a pleasure to explore veganism as a spiritual practice, and also to see how that relates to fitness and our mindset as well. So we sometimes have a closing where, I don't know if you're up for doing a closing. It could be
Sure.
a closing prayer of some kind, or...
Sure, I'll be happy to. Like I told you at the beginning, I think before we even logged on, that I'm a big hiker. I've always been an outdoor guy, but since I moved to the mountains, I have to get to the mountains every day, whether it's snowing outside or whatever. And at the top of the mountain, it's me and God up there. That's my church. And that's where every time I get to the top of the mountain every day, here's what I say. I say, thank you, God, for I am whole and I am perfect in your image. I am strong and I am powerful and I am virtuous beyond compare. I am harmonious with nature and I am loving with all living creatures. I thank you for making me part of your amazing universe. I thank your son, Jesus, for taking my sins away, allowing me to live a life of redemption. And I thank you for my family, my friends, and every creature, both animal, vegetable, and mineral on this planet. In Jesus' name, amen.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Kent. And I especially love the image of being on top of a mountain. So that may every one of us have that opportunity to go to the top of a mountain and just to connect with spirit. And
it's great to do that. It's great to go to the top of a mountain, but God is wherever you're at. You can talk to him anywhere you're at, any place. He's listening. He's always watching. And God just wants the best for you.
Very true. Very true, of course. So thank you for bringing in that image for us, and also to that reminder that God is everywhere.
Yeah.
And again, thanks to everyone for this wonderful experience. And I hope you all have a lovely evening. We will join again in a month or two, and we'll send out reminders. And I hope you can tune in. We do these interviews to inspire and to also connect with one another. So many blessings, vegan blessings to everyone, and have a wonderful evening.
Thanks for having me.
Good night, all.
Good
night. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you,
Ken, so much. Thank you.
Yay.
Ahimsa.
Yes. Awesome.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen to Ahimsa.
Bye, guys.